Strap in and put on a helmet. This is going to be a long one. Spoilers! I love this movie. This movie was my Jaws. I saw this when it first came out and before ever seeing Jaws. I love the sharks. I love the science. I love that it had a smart, proactive female lead. I hated that they killed her off in a useless, pathetic way, but I will definitely get to that later. It's a fun movie, trapped underwater, running from genetically enhanced sharks that have turned on the scientists experimenting on them. Yay! Let's dive right into Deep Blue Sea. So there's an Alzheimer's research facility in the middle of the ocean, and they have some very big sharks. And of course one of the scientists working there has a personal tragic past that led her to doing this research. Because of course. We open on the open ocean with a boat full of teenagers partying and about to have sex, meaning nothing good can come of this. I'll kick things right off. Why is no one wearing a life jacket? What the fuck is with the wine? Just because it's red doesn't mean it smells like blood. And why does a teddy bear stuffed with fluff sink like a bowling ball? Why would a shark bother attacking a boat from the underside? And for that matter, why would a shark bother attacking a boat? If it's hungry, I'm sure there are plenty of things in the ocean to eat. And what is this? Shark shatter a floor like that, and it sends 4 people sprawling off the boat, 2 on each side. It is then 20 feet behind 2 of the people, meaning it would have had to swim past them to get out there, and why would it ever do that if it just wants to eat everybody? Why do the 2 partygoers stop trying to climb the rope once Carter has speared the shark for the second time? It is only feet away from them. It is still snapping and trying to eat them, and given that the ocean is a moving thing, they are well within snacking range, and nobody would stop trying to climb back onto the boat.
Okay. We've had some problems at the facility.
I hate that line reading. She never says what those problems are, or how the shark got out. Why does an obviously experienced and successful businessman who has invested millions into this project, which has the potential to cure one of the worst diseases of all time, jump right to completely shutting down the project before doing any review or investigation? If she's only days away from having viable results, then they would have had many, many promising tests before now. Why not release those results to skyrocket your stock price? Or are we supposed to believe she flies back and genetically alters the sharks right now? Except no, because they fly back together. And also, anytime when the rich guy goes to the secret lab, you just know that he's boned. Also, he gets a tragic backstory with a slightly creepy hint that really could have been left out of the movie, and it wouldn't have made any difference because it goes nowhere.
Welcome to Aquatica.
Aquatica. Excellent name. But if it's a research facility, why does all of it have to be underwater? I know it's supposedly an abandoned Navy substation, but subs are big. Aquatica seems very small with very limited living quarters, and it doesn't seem like it would be all that practical for a sub. Just saying, the place ain't designed all that well, as we'll see later. Since we're almost all here now, we'll have the cast rundown. First is Susan, who aside from almost always talking in a tone of combined anger and I'm surrounded by fools, is a kick-ass scientist who wants to cure Alzheimer's for personal reasons. And of course, because it's personal, she goes to extreme lengths to find a cure, and things go horribly wrong. The shark-spearing badass is Carter. He's got a criminal past of some kind, and Franklin is for some reason suspicious of him, even though letting the shark out would jeopardize Carter's job, and why would he do that? Carter is mostly in the movie to swim with sharks, repeatedly save everyone else, and sacrifice himself like a good hero. Franklin, the rich business guy funding this, apparently only for the money, as he's never known anyone with Alzheimer's. And he was once in an avalanche and may or may not have killed people. He's here to have the most memorable death in the movie. That is all. Dr. Jim Whitlock, introduced as the most brilliant man ever. No further job description is ever given. Ever. More on him later. Janice, the marine biologist, who is either secretly blind or her degree is a total fake. More on that later as well. Also, she's in a serious relationship to the most brilliant man ever, Dr. Jim Whitlock. Scoggins. He's some kind of maintenance tech, and he has a need to tell people he's trustworthy, which makes me not trust him. Maybe he let the shark out. And Brenda the Tower Girl, who could have been written out very easily and has no reason to exist in this movie other than to add to the overall body count. And we'll also meet Preacher, who is a chef, a recovering alcoholic, and has most of the comedy in the movie. He also has a pet bird called Bird. Back to the deep blue sea. Are they trying to suffocate the tiger shark? Do they not know sharks need water to breathe? Put it down.
Welcome to our island paradise.
So where's Tattoo? You know, short guy.
The plane, boss, the plane.
Right.
I am getting old.
I'm forced to agree because I still have no idea what he's talking about. Why does Carter need to swim with the tiger shark? They could have removed the license plate when they had it in the net. And why doesn't the tiger shark turn around and eat him? This isn't the lion and the thorn. Why is Carter antagonizing the guy who decides if he has a job?
2 first-generation and 1 second-generation female. Beneath its glassy surface, a world of gliding monsters.
If all the sharks are female, how is there a second-gen one? And would a marine biologist really call a shark a gliding monster? Oh yeah, she's a fake. And why is he peeing off the tower? Why does Scoggins think Carter missed? If 2 of those things should have damn near killed it, then shouldn't the shark need medical attention? Shouldn't it be quarantined? It was shown to have huge puncture wounds and be bleeding. Wouldn't that cause the other sharks to eat it? Pause it. How the shark got out. While it's implied the shark jumped the 8-foot fence, or at least Carter thinks it's possible because he asked Scoggins to raise them, we never see a shark jump in this movie. And it's never proven that that's how the shark got out. In fact, this is never answered in the entire movie. And at the end, the section of fence the shark is gnawing through is only 2 or 3 feet above the water. That is nothing to a 40-foot shark. And seriously, why is nobody really looking into how the shark got out, and nobody seems concerned with answering that question? What is wrong with all these people? Floppy disks? Really, movie? That was old tech when this movie came out. Also, floppy disks do not boot themselves, and they do not boot up that fast. Susan says,
Did you dose the Gen 2 with the serum?
I had Carter do it as soon as you called from the city. So I should be ready by tomorrow night.
But
We will not be ready. We're 2 months ahead of schedule. We're skipping 3 rounds of preliminary trials.
is she genetically altering it right now? I don't think this movie understands how genetic tampering would work. And they're skipping 3 rounds of preliminary tests? I don't think so. That would in no way be allowed or be practical because they wouldn't have enough preliminary data to set up a full-scale experiment with any chance of success. And even if they did succeed, the results would be laughable because it's a one-time result with no proven history and no proof of how you got there in the first place. This would never work or be allowed in the real world. If Carter doesn't want to make waves, why is he still being a dick to his boss? Pause it again. Did Carter just say he's on parole? He's on parole and he has a job in the middle of the ocean, probably in international waters, working underwater where he would be out of touch for long periods of time, and I'm pretty sure they don't have cell service. Yeah, there's no parole officer that's going to be okay with that. We then see Carter dosing the shark. But didn't Most Brilliant Man ever say that was already done a couple of scenes ago? Why do Susan's friends feel the need to make calling her up for a surprise party as creepy as possible? Those are actual signal flares they set off. Someone would respond to that. The Coast Guard at the very least. Or did they call the Coast Guard and tell them to ignore any distress signals coming from Aquatica that night? That would explain so much. What is with the bad stereotype dialogue between Chef and the rich guy? And seriously, why is another person being a dick to the guy who decides if they have jobs in the morning? Do these people have no sense of self-preservation?
By using a hormonal enhancer, we increase this female's forebrain to 5 times its normal size.
To harvest more protein.
Exactly. Protein that may reactivate...
That will.
That will reactivate human brain cells as stored in the forebrain of the shark.
I'm just amazed that we've come so far so fast without genetic tampering.
Jan, the marine biologist, actually thinks it was hormone therapy that increased a shark's brain to 5 times its normal size. I rest my case on the authenticity of her credentials. Even the rich guy who is not a scientist finds it unbelievable they could do what they're saying without genetic tampering. But the marine biologist totally buys it. What is this?
You're reading too much into it.
That Gen 1 attacked a 25-foot boat. Am I reading too much into that, too?
Did you tell Franklin?
Did he tell Franklin what? That the shark escaped? That it attacked a boat? That it almost ate some people? Franklin already knows that. It's the whole reason he's here. And what happened to the people on the boat? Are they suing? Where are the police? A boat was destroyed, people were attacked, and a medical test animal escaped. Hello? Hello, movie? Is this really the first time Carter is expressing concern over the shark's odd behavior? And he's a shark wrangler, and he thinks something is off. But a marine biologist, and however many other scientists and shark experts work at Aquatica, have noticed absolutely nothing, and haven't said a thing to anyone for however many months or years this has been going on? What the fuck is with Susan threatening him? Firstly, all your jobs are on the line. And whether the test succeeds or not has nothing to do with Carter. He's the shark wrangler. He brings you, the scientist, the shark. Nothing he does or does not do will have any effect on whether your test succeeds or fails, lady. No weather warning. Ugh. With ocean swells of 30 feet, the sharks wouldn't need to jump or chew or break anything to get out. They could just wait for the storm surge to carry them up and over those fences, and how have they not escaped already? With a raging storm, there's no way they would or could run this test right now. They've just shut down their fuel and thus main power. There's no way everything in the lab would still be functional. Why is the tower weather girl telling them what underwater monitors to turn on? How many options for underwater monitors do they have? Invisibility seems far from zero to me. Why is Carter acting hesitant and nervous when he's still safe inside a mesh corridor? Why is Carter about to shoot them when they both attack, when they obviously can't get through the mesh and get to him? And then why does he not shoot it if that's what he's out there to do? If they only plan to bring in one shark, why are 2 of them loose at the same time? And why are they all acting so nervous right now? They would have done this before several times. Why are they also surprised when the sharks attack in unison? Why is Susan surprised? Why is most brilliant man ever, Dr. Jim Whitlock, acting surprised, saying they've never noticed before? Again, did they modify the sharks overnight? No, because Jan knows about the bigger brains, which implies they've been working on it for a long time, and yet they're all surprised as if this is the first time the sharks would have shown any odd behavior. Movie, please get it straight. And if they know the sharks have had significant increase in the size of their brains, wouldn't they have been looking for any correlating changes in behavior or surpassing of physiological limits? And really the sharks have never shown any signs of this before now, or it's all been kept secret somehow. In a tiny underwater lab where everybody would know everything about everyone's business, and privacy is, yeah, something you left on the mainland. two people know for sure the sharks are not normal sharks anymore. And even if they had been working on the sharks alone for a great deal of the time and were the only ones to see the odd behavior, everybody else would have been aware that two people were spending a great deal of time alone with the sharks. They would know something is up. At this point, it becomes obvious that most brilliant Dr. Jim Whitlock and Susan are lying, as they brush over the weird behavior and tell everyone to focus and get on with the experiment. And even after watching the shark eat the camera and take out the underwater power, we're still going to go ahead with this as if nothing odd is going on, because there are no massive red flags just bitch slapping them in the face. How does Carter get the shark on the platform? I have always really wanted to know this. The reveal of the shark is wonderful. It's one of the best moments in the movie. But Franklin doesn't get just a little suspicious or hesitant when he hears,
What in God's creation?
Oh, not his. Ours.
did you hear that? That line right there is my biggest point for most brilliant man ever, Dr. Jim Whitlock, being the real villain of the movie. I was trying so hard to hold this back until later, but I just can't. Not after that line. He just declared, I am Dr. Frankenstein. More on him later. But firstly, how do they still have scan readings after they've removed the scanning equipment? Am I supposed to believe these sharks have learned to control their biofeedback readings to make it look like they're sedated when they're not? Because they really, really don't. Also, after the shark is clearly not sedated, they still go ahead with the whole stick a large needle in its brain part, because what could possibly go wrong? 4.5 cc's is fucking huge. How is the shark not dead if they remove that much of a brain protein that it makes and therefore needs to survive?
Introducing 2 cc's of the protein complex into cultured, inactive brain neurons of an Alzheimer's patient.
Cultured brain neurons. Really, movie? You didn't have a science consultant to tell you how much bullshit that is? They don't run any tests on this new protein. They don't try to verify it in any way, synthesize it, concentrate it. No, they just pour it on a glob of something and watch the lightning show, 'cause that's science.
Did it, pal? You did it.
Why does the shark attack him? It really has no reason to. If all they want is out, the storm will do that, or they can get out the same way they got out at the beginning of the movie that has still not been explained. But no, the plot says we are supposed to believe that sharks know about medevac choppers, and they know the layout of Aquatica, and the fail-safes, and they've come up with a complex, elaborate plan to sink the evil lab experimenting on them and escape into the open ocean and to freedom in the most convoluted way possible. After the attack, why does Carter go to shoot the shark? It's still contained. The lab is not flooded. It can't go anywhere, so it can't hurt anyone as long as you stay back from it. But let's be real for a moment. It just bit a guy's arm off, you already got what you needed, and you have 2 other sharks. Susan should have let him shoot it. Also, there's apparently no medical bay of any kind or medical staff that they would be required at all times to have, even with a skeleton crew. How close by is the rescue base if they're there by the time they get upstairs? Also, Dr. Jim Whitlock is dead. Dude would be losing blood by the gallon, and they make no sign of doing anything to stop the bleeding or give him medical support of any kind. In fact, nothing they do seems like it would do any good in that situation. And yeah, dude's dead before they get outside. There's virtually no railings on floating walkways that cross over tanks filled with giant killer sharks. They should all be swept in and immediately eaten. What's with the winch malfunctioning? Did the sharks just get really, really lucky? Why doesn't the helicopter pilot pull up? And are we supposed to believe, again, the sharks know that there's a helicopter attached to that piece of meat and exactly how to drag it into the tower and cause a massive explosion? And do I even have to say that it shouldn't blow up? Is the helicopter made out of C4? Why didn't they disconnect or cut the line? Why didn't they fly over the tower? Why didn't they go left or right? So many options, and they take none of them.
I want to take this as a sign.
While Preacher's instant relapse is funny, is it really his first instinct to pound booze? Not, I don't know, try a phone, see if anyone else is alive, ask what the fuck. And Dr. Jim Whitlock is still alive because oxygen mask, and would in no way have been turned into pink mist by his proximity to the explosion, except, oh yeah, he would, and so would at least one shark. Why does the lab have a giant window? And we later see sharks breaking through metal doors with, apparently, their head. So why do they need the gurney to break the big piece of glass? Why haven't they broken it before? I don't think all of them together are strong enough to shut the door as they're escaping the flood. There's only one stairwell from the second floor. Bullshit. Also, Preacher sees bolts popping and doesn't bolt in the opposite direction. And that's gotta be the shortest relapse ever. Survive the flood, and with that much water pumping in, should the place not be sinking, oh, a whole lot quicker than it appears to be? Look at the right side of the screen. It's clear the side of the pen is destroyed. The shark could swim out to freedom right now, but instead it decides to swim through fire and go inside narrow corridors and hunt down humans? Really? Do the super smart sharks think they need to kill everyone that knows they exist to be free? It's the only thing that comes close to making sense. Even though there's no reason for it, as it's never mentioned that the sharks have tracking devices or a built-in kill switch of any kind. And why aren't medical test animals equipped with a tracker of some kind? And I maintain that they aren't, since the movie never says that they are. So they could just leave and be impossible to find. If they're supposed to be super smart, stop making them stupid, movie. And if they aren't tracked, how is Carter able to find the one that escaped in the first place and attack the boat?
And these sharks, they aren't just breaking down doors for the sheer joy of it, are they? They're after us.
Why does Franklin jump right for the "they're after us" excuse? Is he the only one who read the script? Mini rant. Why does everyone turn on Susan? She says,
their brains weren't large enough to harvest sufficient amounts of the protein complex. So we violated the Harvard Compact. Jim and I used gene therapies to increase their brain mass. As a side effect, the sharks got smarter.
You stupid bitch.
Jim and I. She says clearly that most brilliant man ever, Dr. Jim Whitlock, was just as involved as she was. And I would argue he has to be more involved, because she's only shown to be a neuroscientist slash researcher of some kind, making her area the human brain, not sharks and not genetics. She wouldn't know a damn thing about genetic engineering. But somebody referred to as the most brilliant man ever certainly would, especially since he has no specified job title, and his job there is never clarified in any specific way in the entire movie. making the only logical conclusion that he is the one who did the actual genetic tampering. Perhaps at Susan's request, but he had to be the one with the knowledge to actually do it. So why does he get a pass on blame? Is it just because he's dead? And I honestly think the movie forgot about him too, because it's a massive rift in the plot. Also, this line,
Sharks never get cancer or go blind or show any loss of brain activity as they age. Unlike some people I know.
yes, it's a joke, but it makes me wonder if at some point in the script writing, he had the motivation of trying to cure himself. Because in the movie, there's no answer as to why he would agree to genetically alter the sharks, but given that his actual job is never confirmed, I suppose asking for character development is just too much. Even without a motivation, how does no one at any point turn on Jan and in anger say, well, why didn't you know what your boyfriend was doing? It never came up during Pillow Talk, Jan. And Jan herself never has a moment of, why didn't he tell me? How could he hide this from me? Was he really the person that I thought he was? No, just everyone is raging at Susan, and not one person, even his own girlfriend, has any reaction to him being involved in any way, nor is it ever acknowledged in the rest of the movie. How does Preacher outswim a shark? It's only 30 feet away when he spots it. And how are the sharks supposed to have trashed the sub? And why would they bother? Why not let two people get in the sub, then trash it and leave the people to drown or just eat them? Where does Preacher get the hatchet from? And seriously, it's a metal axe on a metal stove that's filling with gas and not one spark is created? He doesn't blow himself up? I kind of think he would. And when the shark does blow up, wow, does it blow up big, except there wouldn't be nearly that much gas in the whole room, or in the whole facility for that matter, and again, he'd be dead from proximity. The maintenance ladder escape, the first time. What's the bit about the pool letting in millions of gallons of ocean? Does no one remember the giant lab window that is already doing that right now? The big avalanche we have to pull together speech. Don't get me wrong, I love this scene. It's one of the best movie deaths of the past 20 years. But notice that the dangling sub never actually moves. We're supposed to believe a giant shark pops up out of the water, takes a guy from standing down into the water, and the sub never once moves and is not shown to be swinging, swaying, dangling, or anything else afterwards. CGI is great, movie, but it won't apply basic physics for you.
You just ate him. Just ate him, Christ. I'm not moving. I'm not moving from here. Someone will come. They'll come and they'll get us and we'll be fine.
Scoggins' idea to sit and wait for rescue is not the dumbest thing this movie's offered up. There's been multiple giant explosions. They would have been visible from the mainland, and the underwater vibrations would have set off several warning systems. Also, what happened to the helicopter crew would have attracted a lot of attention. People would be expecting them back. People would be looking for them. People would be looking for the lab that they went to. If the reason for not being rescued is the storm conditions, then at least say so.
Now, level 2 is only partially flooded. If I can get that access door open, the water will run off there. Buy some time.
How is the second level only partially flooded? They started on the second level. The one that had the big lab window that broke, and then the shark broke down the door containing that water? Shouldn't that level be completely flooded already? Then this. How is Carter not immediately shark food as soon as he gets swept in? And is it just me, or do the sharks seem to shrink a little when they're indoors? The ladder breaks and Jan falls in the water. Again, how is she not instantly killed? What is the shark waiting for, and where does it seem to have gone? Is the shark really trying to use Jan to bring down Carter? And why are they so bad at grabbing onto each other? Also, 5 seconds later, this. Why does everyone just relax once Jan is gone? Wouldn't the water still be rising quickly? Wouldn't they still be in massive danger? Why are they all just chilling?
We did it. We're on level 1. We can take the access stair all the way up to the surface.
The stairs are flooded, trust me, I know.
So they've made it to level 1, and they're just below the surface. Yay! But there's only one stairwell. And now you're just cheating, movie. And so the plan is to use some generator magic to drain the stairwell and get to the surface. Fine. So why do they all detour to Dead Jan's room?
After what you said down there, maybe you were right. I don't think I could have done it without you.
I know, Susan. That's the problem.
The Carter-Susan subplot, and the stupid blaming yet again. His job was to bring her the shark and give the shark whatever medicine she told him to give it. That's not being used, buddy. That's doing your damn job. Stop with the blaming bullshit. It would almost make sense if he was in on the genetic manipulation but didn't know about the side effects. But he's not. So shut up. Then Susan goes to get her research. So many problems, so little time. 1. All the relevant data from the success they just had would have been on the lab computers, and those are all destroyed. Okay, so the stuff in her room is everything that led up to that, minus the 3 preliminary tests that they skipped. But it's still important research. Fine! Do you mean to tell me there's only 1 copy of it? There's no off-site backup? The rich guy's company didn't insist on having their own copies of everything? No, the one and only copy is those floppy disks in her room. They're stupid, and then there's whatever this movie thinks science is. This has always bugged the heck out of me because it's just a contrived way to get Susan alone. If Preacher thinks it's so unsafe, why doesn't he volunteer to go with her? And why does he think it's unsafe? They're in a fairly secure, non-flooded part of the facility. They appear to be safe for now.
I thought you were coming back for me.
One of your stupid monitors is blocking the pen.
Where is this air pocket that Scoggins and Carter are using to not drown? The generator. How is that thing still working? How does anywhere in this place still have power? And how is a generator supposed to pump out water that's being forced in with the force of the ocean? For this to work, the stairwell would have to be sealed and pressurized, which it clearly isn't, since it's already compromised and flooded. Stupid plan is stupid. Bye, Scoggins! And why doesn't the shark eat Carter too? How isn't he electrocuted? How isn't the shark electrocuted? Where the fuck is that door supposed to lead that isn't already flooded? And then we cut to Preacher, who, if he's such a man of faith, why is he being such a pessimist? Really? Recording a final message? And then he goes to throw it in the interior of the facility, guaranteeing it will sink with the place to be found by no one. He doesn't actually throw it in because Carter reappears, Preacher puts it in his pocket, and we never see the tape again. Back to Susan. Yay that she's smart enough to close the door for safety after looking around and not seeing a shark, but is the shark supposed to be waiting for her? And smart enough to stay very, very still, and somehow, even though it's a giant shark, it's hidden in a room full of waist-deep water? And how long has it been waiting for her? Though I must admit, this... is one of the best fake-outs of all time, and while I would normally rag on fake-outs, this one is just too perfect and too brilliant. I love it. It gets me every time. The underwear shot. Wow, that underwear was just about as necessary as the underwear in Star Trek Into Darkness. Grow up, movie makers. And I get what she's supposed to be doing, using the wetsuit to ground herself. Except it wouldn't work because her wetsuit is wet, making it entirely pointless. And after only one attempt to reach her research, she says, "Ah, fuck it," strips down and fries everything. Is she part Hulk? How can she rip a metal cable out of the wall with her bare hands? And wouldn't just touching it with her wet, bare hands get her electrocuted too? Why does the power go out as soon as the sharks are dead? And where is it getting power from in the first place? And no, floppy disks would not burn and char like that, and they would probably be just fine.
Is this the only way? Extra flooded. Whole place is sinking. Swear no way at all.
Okay, they can finally escape to the surface. They've made it to an emergency escape hatch, and they even discuss why they can't wear life jackets because it would surface them too quickly, and then immediately forget because at no point do any of them stop and decompress, meaning they would most likely all have a case of the bends as soon as they surfaced and be in some real trouble. One of my other favorite parts of this movie.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, because I carry a big stick, and I'm the meanest motherfucker in the valley.
It's just so damn good. I've had it memorized since the first time I saw this movie. It's one of those things that makes this movie so great. Also, good points for making it to the surface in a reasonable amount of time. You can actually hold your breath for the entire amount of time that they swim up to the surface without dying, which puts this movie miles ahead of many, many others. If the sharks are supposed to be so smart, why do they keep falling for these decoys? How sharp is that cross supposed to be? And why does the shark take him for a ride instead of not drowning him or eating him like it has everyone else in the entire movie? Where did they get a dry box of medical supplies from? And how is he not bleeding to death or in agonizing pain?
Son of a bitch.
What?
Those fences are titanium underneath, but on top they're just plain steel. They've been hurting us, pushing us where they want, using us to flood the facility.
So Carter finally puts it all together. The sharks are using them to break out. But why aren't the sharks long gone? That little piece of chain link fence ain't gonna stop a shark that can put a couple of tons, including steel doors that are watertight, into its head and break them like toothpicks. I won't comment on the MacGyver harpoon gun thing. Mythbusters did an excellent episode about it, so I suggest you Google to see just how much bullshit it is. But it is some epic bullshit.
Dan! I can't get her! She's too far away!
I know how to get her!
How?
Bait.
Carter, who knows everything about how to attract sharks, just stands there like a dumbass when it's too far away to shoot it. Okay, mini rant time. Susan has the right idea about using her blood to lure the shark, but why doesn't she go to where Carter is? He's got the vantage point, and the shark would come right to him so he could shoot it. But no, the filmmakers have declared she must die, and apparently she must do it in the dumbest way possible. I hate this line.
Come to Mama.
It's completely out of place. It means nothing, and it's stupid. It's just there to add to her supposed blame and remind you that you're supposed to want her to die. The death of Susan itself. In the original ending, the filmmakers had her survive, and she's sitting on the dock with Carter and Preacher. It's her that Carter is lustfully gazing at the end. But they digitaled her out after it was declared that she must die. Now, supposedly it was test audiences that wanted to see her character dead, feeling that she was the villain, and therefore she had to die, but I gotta say that sounds more like a studio decision to me than an audience one. And either way, why did the filmmakers not realize that they had done a very poor job of making it clear just who is responsible for altering the sharks? Once again, most brilliant man ever, Dr. Jim Whitlock's name is never brought up again. He takes no blame or responsibility at all, and she apparently must die because she's the only one left who had anything to do with it, even though she probably had the least amount to do with it. For my 2 cents, if his role had been made much more clear and addressed, then nobody would have felt the need for her character to die, and she could have been the badass hero that she was supposed to be in the original ending. Now for the other side. If you must, and I mean must, if you must kill her off, movie, why not make her death badass and meaningful? Most of what I've been bitching about is the fact that her death is stupid and pointless. She even seems to plead with the shark, and it does hesitate for a moment before eating her. But then it feels Carter hit the water to come get it, which he does for some reason instead of using the distraction she creates to shoot it, which is why she did it. But no, he drops the gun and dives in to somehow save her as if he could. What? What is he thinking? Since Carter blows the moment, she just gets eaten, and her death is completely meaningless and pointless as nothing is accomplished by it. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, movie. Either it's a noble self-sacrifice, or it's not. I don't know what that was trying to be, but God is it awful. Then it's Preacher to the rescue with the harpoon gun, but wait a minute, how does he know the plan since he was not there when they were explaining it? This is what goes wrong when you change the ending. Supposed to be if he can hold on to a fence strongly enough to rip himself off a shark and a harpoon spear. And then when he surfaces, he's completely fine. He's not bleeding profusely in agonizing pain, and he's especially not dead from the blast pressure.
Are you sure it was just 3 sharks?
Stupid line is stupid. You killed my favorite character. Just end. And only the next shift is arriving. There's been yet another huge explosion, and yet no form of authority ever arrives. One thing I really liked about this movie was the soundtrack. The main theme is awesome, and the soundtrack has a number of other cool songs, including Shark Fin by LL Cool J that is well worth a listen. The sharks are very impressive. The practical animatronic ones look amazing, and while the CGI hasn't entirely held up, it's still a lot better than a lot of the things we see today. You can tell just how much effort went into making the sharks look awesome, with a reported 14 effects houses working on them. It shows, and it was worth the effort. The science is total nonsense, and the movie's heavily emotionally confused on all fronts, but it's fun and funny, and the pacing is damn near perfect. So for all the bad, it's still a good movie, and I still love it. And now for... we start off with... Bad Writing Boo! For the bad dream jump scare shark that's not only pointless but actually goes actively against the idea that the shark is pretending to be sedated when it's not. Then a scientific facepalm for all the science in the entire movie. Then it's boom because movie for the helicopter and the tower blowing up, the kitchen exploding, and the harpoon gun explosion that was myth-busted. We don't need no stinking badges. For no form of authority or oversight existing in the world of Deep Blue Sea. Idiocy for the win! For Susan jumping in the water when she could have just dripped her blood, and for failing to use the holes in the concrete to climb out when that was definitely also possible. I'm also awarding 2 sexism first. First for the underwear shot, which was only added after Saffron Burrows was added to the cast, and the second for either the test audience or the studio declaring that Susan's character must die for her sins. It's bullshit all around and only serves to make the movie dumber, as in the end it makes her entire character pointless since neither she nor her research survive. That was Deep Blue Sea, and I am Insane Lane. Bye bye.